Hello and welcome to Two Blokes in a Cave, a vaguely philosophical podcast hosted by me, Carlton Sin, an enjoyer of a good cup of tea, and my good friend Cameron Wright also enjoys a good cup of tea made by me. Apparently, every time we do make a tea,
That's the deal.
I think tastes better when you don't make it. I think that's the
like
key.
a sandwich.
Yeah,
1,000%. I don't think I've ever had a sandwich that I made that tasted better than any other type of sandwich that someone else made.
You know what's funny about that? I think there is some science about that.
Oh, is there?
It's just like because when you're cooking food, you're like exposed to the smells.
Okay.
So you're a little bit more desensitized. But if someone
Yeah.
gives you some food, it's like an explosion of good stuff.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you're writing
I've just
a play.
heard Gordon Ramsay talk about that, and I'm like, that probably is real.
I feel like
Maybe.
if you're creating anything, like writing a play, you're like, I already know what happens. Whereas like you present it to someone, they're like, oh, wow, that's pretty
amazing.
interesting. You're like, oh, it's garbage. Just like did it took.
Yeah, it took me 4 years to write this. My life is in this book right now. Okay,
Yeah, also
very
funny because like I'm the only one drinking tea. Like, what are you drinking? jokes. All
Very
good.
Very good. Okay, well, today we're going to give AI a crack, inspired by, I think it's called, what's it? A new Netflix documentary about artificial intelligence by Bill Gates. Really kind of diving into the pros, what to expect, the future of AI, and how that's going to interact with us. And we've already done a few episodes now where our general takes may be formed, or you may know roughly which corner we may sit in when it comes to, is AI a good thing for the world? Whether or not we like it, AI is here, and it's going to continue to become an ever more present aspect in our life. And I think it is probably worth some serious discussion to figure out, like, what exactly is AI? How does it interact with us now? What's the future of AI in our lives, and how should we approach it from a sort of a moral, ethical, productive perspective? Like, what should we be doing? How should we approach AI so that we can best live our life?
Yeah, well, like a pre-word though, we're all supposed to watch this documentary, and I didn't watch it. So I skimmed through it real quickly and then read the summary notes provided by yourself and Brendan, and which are very, very comprehensive. And I already had some ideas, so I really don't. Just a heads up for the documentary was an inspiration, but I didn't watch it. But, we'll get there eventually. AI, really interesting. I mean, we've been sort of like floating around the discussion on it when we're talking about the Matrix, when we're talking about that machine you chuck yourself into.
Yeah,
they're all like kind of AI versions and conversations.
They're similar. They've got the idea of AI, or at least maybe the conclusion of AI is sort of wrapped up in those philosophical questions.
Yeah, that's the nth degree when it comes to a program interacting with the human consciousness would be, I guess, the Matrix. There's not much further you can get with that.
Well, look, producer Brendos, we're going to get him in. He's sort of probably the most science fiction interested of the three of us, and this is an episode sort of inspired by him. So we'll get him in.
Ode to Brendan.
Brendos, give us your thoughts on artificial intelligence.
Hey, pretty funny that you said science fiction, because I think AI is right here. Like, it is real. It's no longer fiction. It is happening before our eyes with our crazy fever dream type videos and our chat GPTs that we copy and paste responses to our girlfriends to.
Not me. I'm
Don't
married.
say that. She thought it was me the entire time. Yeah.
If you're listening to this, I've never done that.
So the documentary that we're talking about is what's next, the future with Bill Gates.
Classic.
With the first episode being
She's fairly catchy.
on AI, in which they talk about in 2022, AI woke up with a company called OpenAI. That company spawned ChatGPT. So AI, artificial intelligence, is the technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. So that definition is from IBM. There isn't a real collective decided description, but I think that's a pretty good one. And Chat GPT, so the GPT is generative, pre-trained, and transformers. So they all mean individual things. So the generative is an algorithm that is able to generate words or a language model. So it is able to understand how we speak, and it relays its information in a language model that we understand. The pre-trained is talking about like the large amount of data that is used to pre-train AI. So you can talk about the internet as being the largest database we ever have, but more specifically, like any like dialogue that you have in like Tinder, kind of social dating apps, things like that. That's all data that can be used to pre-train AI. And the same thing with what we're doing right now, putting out content for YouTube for you guys to
we're
watch.
feeding it right now.
That can be
Stop
considered
Stop the
pre-trained AI.
video. Dear God. Good point. Actually, hang on a sec.
I just want it to be like the Zoolander, like it's in the computer.
The files in the computer.
Oh crap! It's in the computer. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Brendan. Continue.
It's the opposite
So
of
the
AI.
last one, so everything is great, but it's kind of what we've had for many years. But the last one is really what I think makes AI AI. It's an algorithm that is gives it the ability to predict what's coming next, and it learns from how accurate that prediction is. So for it to do that, they need a human feedback, which is what we do when we go to GPT and we say, hey, that's actually a quite a good essay that you wrote for me. It's taking that information and it's using it to get better and better. And that self-learning aspect of it is what makes AI different to any other program we've ever created. Leave you with that.
It's very, very good.
It is good.
First thought on that, Cameron?
So, I mean, it's all a bit like full on, really, because I don't exactly fully know what they're doing. But it seems a little bit scary, a little bit exciting, a little bit like interesting. And I think that's probably what we're going to talk about, the whole cliff, because I think it's a combination of exciting, terrifying, and vaguely okay. But like, you're probably going to lean towards the other not okay. And I'll probably somewhere like sit around the middle. Like I normally do.
This man walks around the offices here at Two Blokes at a Cave, bow-legged from all the fence sitting he does. Just the number one fence sitter.
Yeah, that's
is
right.
this guy.
Yeah,
He'll find a fence. Don't worry about this guy. He's got a fence. He'll find it. That's a bit of both. You know, some good
Talking
stuff.
into ChatGPT's like, stop fence sitting. I'm like, what? How'd you know? Predictive my
I know
ass.
you, Cameron. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. I mean, look, I think it's, I guess the AI revolution, or even just the technological revolution, the effects of which I don't think humanity has really come to terms with or has really integrated into our life effectively. I would go so far as to say that the Industrial Revolution changed life in such a profound way that we still haven't really shifted biologically from an agrarian hunter-gatherer type of people to this highly industrialized center. I don't think we've adapted very well to that. And that was like 300 years ago. The rate at which technological advancement seems to take place far outstrips what biology can naturally kind of keep up with.
Oh, for sure.
So it's not something that, even though we are making these huge leaps technologically, I don't think we as a species are necessarily benefited for them. There's a really cool quote that I quite enjoy. It is something to the effect of, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships were built for. And so too in life, like AI makes your life easier, but that's not what you were made for. You were made to be challenged and to do great things. Could you imagine, and we've talked about this before, and I feel like we're on the same page in this respect, that achieving greatness requires suffering, requires kind of turmoil and hard work. If you remove all that, you don't get the high highs because there's no real climb. If every
didn't
mountain,
do anything.
well, if every mountain is a molehill,
Yeah.
it's not that exciting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like part of
100%.
the excitement is the failure, is the idea that, oh, this is going to take everything I have got. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I want to dial it back, and I want to actually get some of the thoughts from the idea of like how we shape our society. Okay, and my rough theory is that from the Industrial Revolution, we have still not really, like socially, the social fabric of humanity hasn't really updated itself in a way which reflects the Industrial Revolution. So we've got this technological revolution maybe in the 80s or 90s when the internet and PC really started to become a profound mover in the business world. That's really where everything starts. It's sort of in commerce and it trickles down through there. You think, what effects has that had on the generation below us? We're not super old fellas, but you can already sort of see in the way the Gen Z, I think is the generation below us, acts and comports themselves with technology in a way in which we did not. Like, I'm a little bit younger than you.
Yeah.
Not that much. But when we were kids, like I played cricket in the street regularly with just random kids that would come past and like hang out. We'd ride bikes. We would be outside a lot. And I think now there is not a lot of that. And a lot more of these kids are online all the time. And that's a real social change, because me growing up, this was social. Like I could touch people I was interacting with, because there really wasn't, like I didn't do a lot of SMSing and...
SMSing.
Is that right?
Yeah. I haven't heard that in ages.
MySpace, so that kind of, I didn't have any of that. I'm not a big computer guy anyway, but like that wasn't really a big thing for me growing up.
Yeah.
And certainly not when I was young. I mean, maybe, grade probably 10, 11, 12, it was starting to come along. But the idea of social has changed. Like what is social now could be you and me listening to a podcast separately, but we kind of chat about it on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
would be considered social now. But that if you had explained that to someone 10 years ago, like, hey, do you know what? I was just having a really social afternoon. I sat in my room by myself, but I was chatting to 4 people. People will look at you kind of like, oh, that's a bit strange. And part of the reason that it's strange is because it's such a massive shift from this being social is like in the same room, the people skills, the ability to be comfortable in person with another human and have conversations, to I actually don't talk to people face to face ever. In fact, even talking on the phone is a novelty now. So many people seem to struggle with the on the phone having a conversation that are younger. Like the Gen Z types really seem to, my sister's a decent example. They're just not used to it. It doesn't happen. When I was younger, like if I had a landline, you call someone's phone and they're like, mum would answer it, and then you have to be nice.
Can I speak to Johnny?
You talk on the phone to a parent. But there was a degree of difficulty to the equation that's not just firing off a message with no... There's no... It seems very inhuman to me, because it's just words and text and stuff. But the idea that that's now considered social is a huge change that we haven't begun to grapple with, like what that actually means and looks like for the development of us as a species. And that's sort of 10, 15 years. Like even just growing up before Facebook. I grew up, nothing
when
I
Facebook
did
came
was
out,
on the
2008, 9. Don't know if it really occurred much before then. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like, it's definitely super duper fast. And they even say, like, I've seen a few things on the internet with people saying that the younger generation who've only had all social media and interacted that way, their brains actually like wired differently, and it's actually like the neurons fire off differently. I don't know if they've ever done a study on that, but it seems to be said because of the way they interact is like maybe faster, maybe it requires less actual social like interaction. Like maybe they're faster and they're doing more things mentally, but they're not showing much emotion or portraying emotion.
It's the attention, like, was it attention deficit or something?
Yeah, a bit like that.
They're
moving subjects really fast.
Very long.
Yeah, I definitely think biology is not changing. Like we're still the same people probably were for like many thousands of years ago. It's not hugely different. Might be a little bit taller, might be a little bit like more healthy, but like psychologically, aren't we still like reptilian brain garbage meat suits who are like trying to deal with this ridiculously
related to Bill
complicated.
Gates? Reptilian brain meat. I'm like, you related to Bill Gates? That's crazy. Didn't know that.
Well, we're gonna get canned for that one. Why'd this video get flagged? I have no idea. Yeah, I think.
Fair
like,
enough.
I mean, there's people who goes from doing what you probably made to do, which is like work maybe 4 to 5 hours a day, sit around with the family, cook a stew, protect the stew, do all this stuff, maybe go to the field, and then it went from into a factory, which is like a pretty big step, like you're saying, industrial revolution.
Yeah.
They're all in there. It's unnatural light. It's like bloody light all the time. You're doing shifts.
Yeah.
You're drinking this coffee. Then coffee's like become a huge staple because of the
You become
explosion of this.
disconnected from nature, and
there's
more than
nothing
that,
in
you
there that's
become
natural.
disconnected from your family. Like if
Yeah.
you were even like if you were a lord or a peasant, you would be with your family or near enough to them all the time. Like if little Johnny wants to see his dad, who's a farmer, he just walks outside
Yeah,
to
that's
his
right.
farm and be like, Dad, I need you.
I know.
Or, most likely, what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
just a degree of separation that I don't think is healthy or good for us developmentally or
Yeah, it's a
socially.
bit
Like
weird.
it's just, it's a weird, it's just a weird concept to say humans can operate or can be, fine at a distance. And we know that that's not true. Like we categorically can map it out and go, oh, remember there was a period of time during the great, don't talk about it, that happened like 2 years ago where people were forced to
Right.
not socialize with one another. And there was chartable rates of like mental health issues
Right.
that spiked dramatically because we couldn't go outside, gather together with friends. Like there's a need. You mentioned reptilian brain meat sacks. But humans
Just
really
like
are
tongue-in-cheek.
much more,
Yeah.
of course. Humans are social mammals. Like there's a not a like a want, there's a need. Even if you're an introvert, like you still need
Yeah,
less,
that's true.
but you still need human interaction. It's not as if introverts don't want to deal with people. Most of them, I guess.
They just have a certain amount of energy for it.
Exactly. It's an energy thing. But like you can't go through life by yourself. We were not made to be solo, lone wolf, sigma male, whatever the heck the hottest terms are these days. But like that's not what that's not what we were made to do. Like there is something about us that is deeply social in nature. It's a requirement to be fulfilled. And I would go so far as to say you can't develop yourself into a full person by yourself. You need externalities to grow that sense of self and bring it out to its fullness with friends, family, spouse, children, grandparents, passers-by. It all adds up to the whole, which I think is leading in now to AI. It just seems like there is not a lot of humanity left for humans to engage in.
Yep.
Right? Like if the majority of life, to your point quickly, is work a few hours, labor with your hands and your body, and then spend the rest of the time making meals. And it's a quick summary, obviously, it's not a legitimate.
Yeah, that's right.
But the general thing about a slower paced lifestyle is you work physically to create food, and then you spend most of your other time preparing the food and then eating the food with people for hours. And you spend hours eating lunch, talking to your children, to your wife, to your family, cleaning the dishes, and then you do it all again. Yeah. But that is what maybe at its core, like life is. There are people I know, good friends of mine, that think humans are just animals. That's what animals do. Even the social ones. They eat together, they play, and then they sleep and they do it all again. That's like the sort of the rough nexus for what life is. And we've created, credit scores and office cubicles. So we're very, very social. But
it's all very cold. But yeah.
Yeah. But don't you think like the AI aspect seems to be removing us further from maybe what a base humanity? If the Industrial Revolution took men initially out of the home and put them into a factory, right? And completely just arbitrarily made up this like 8 hour, 10 hour, whatever it was, work day, and then sends them home, just disrupts the normal order of how humans relate to one another, how we have like, oh, dad's always around, as opposed to now like dad's just not here all day.
Where's dad? Where is
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's out. And then we come back, and now we've got a situation where it's even worse. I'm like, well, what is left to do? And there's a huge difference in my mind between leisure, which is one of the big pros for AI, and then just fucking around.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think what the AI proponents or people who want to go positive for it would say is that you'd have all this spare time because you don't have to go to the factory. It's like the logical conclusion of like we've done all that stuff and now you've got a machine and some sort of like better ideas that are generated for you in order to save you time, and therefore then you can go and like bum around with your family. Or I guess you have more time and stuff to fulfill with things that you really kind of want to or like. Yeah. But I don't know if that's the case. It seems to me like once that stuff gets implemented, it's like it's all about sort of like productivity, and then you think, well, if I can get these people to work 8 hours, if I can get them to work 10 hours, they will make an extra so much more amount of time, and we'll do more output. I feel like if AI is doing all the work,
Yeah.
there's a part of me that's like, I don't know, that maybe they'd make us do other things, or something else would occur where we'd have to do it. Someone's doing the shit jobs. AI's not out there unless we've got robots, I suppose. We're talking about that. Is this the end thing where it's kind of all machine?
Talking about AI and like the what to expect and how it's changing. My general thesis on I'm not a Luddite, by the way, if everyone's wondering. I'm not into stifling technological advancement.
Yeah.
I just think that it is worth pausing and reflecting, and acknowledging that progress isn't always linear, and that AI is not linear; it's exponential. So a normal graph is like this, but exponential would be.
Yeah.
There's no time to adjust. There's no time to really consider, like, is this something that we ought to be in bed with? Is it is it that kind of Frankensteinian notion of, God creates man, man creates monster, monster kills God, but in this case, monster kills man. Are we sowing the seeds of our own destruction, not by some iRobot takeover with guns, but are we just eliminating the need for ourselves by creating machines?
But I don't think, I think we probably are, but I don't think we can stop it. It's like unstoppable. It's already on its track. It's efficient and it's better. I think there's a famous, it's not famous because I don't think everyone knows about it. There's some sort of theory to do with technological advance or scientific advancement that's like basically an asymptote, where it's an exponential graph that kind of gets more exponential the more time goes on. And we're like at somewhere near the beginning. So according to this, I guess, theory of progression, it should effectively get more and more and exponentially more technologically advanced and more extreme over time. That's kind of like how it should go. And I think like that's why I guess in the 50s people were saying we should be flying in flying cars by like 1980, but we didn't do that. And they're like, what about 2020? Now we still don't have flying cars, but this is sort of like the example we give. I don't think it's really... There's going to be people out there using the technology and trying to make the technology better all the time. You can't really stop it. I think it's kind of like we both kind of probably do agree that you probably put some limits on like what it specifically does, because it seems to be it's borderline dangerous in like the wrong actual hands, because it's kind of like self-coding itself and it's in the background and it'll get to a point where no one really knows what it's actually doing.
Well, this is interesting. If we have a look at this Netflix show, What's Next?
Yeah.
There was a point where they say, I think it was 2022, Brendan mentioned before, that AI woke up.
Right.
And if that doesn't kind of make you like, that's a little bit scary. Like just the language that they're using. Like, what do you mean woke? What do you mean? Well, woke up from what, a nap? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Just
we plugged it
gained
into the
sentience.
system.
Like, hang on. That's a pretty profound moment in history, and it seems like we just kind of glossed right over that. Like, AI woke up yesterday, by the way, Cameron. Anyway, did you see the sports scores?
This is like when Hal from like...
Sorry, I can't do that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit of a... Can we, I suppose, take a minute to think about what the ramifications are for if IBM open chat AI or whatever it's called is to be believed, and that AI is now a sentient, awake entity that is exponentially getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And if intelligence is just a measure of recall, then it's going to be far superior to the biological counterpart. What is that? What is that? Is that the moment we could say, 2022 AI woke up and gained sentence? We should have shut this down.
What, like,
do you know what I mean?
Like
what is the?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I'll go back. Okay, I'll go back. My general thoughts. Like, 'cause, like they kind of like made it sound like it was extreme when it first came out. It's a bit like crypto. When crypto first came out, everyone was like, off the chain is going to be like the biggest thing ever. It was like an explosion. Everyone gets on the bandwagon, and like all the stocks kind of do this that are involved with it, and people go ha ha ha. I mean, I think in the end, I think crypto's not like, it's out there and it's doing stuff. We kind of haven't really seen its full use yet, and like no one's really like universally adopting it. And it's kind of like wasn't as big as they made it sound so scary. I felt the same thing a little bit about AI. Like, it's full on. It's pretty full, crazy. He said that's bad comparison. It's just new technology. Yeah, one sec. And then, like, right now, it's a scary concept because you think it's like Skynet that's going to, like, change the world and ruin all your jobs and completely, like, do some sneaky shit and shut down the financial system. But I think, like, to me, even the definition is saying it's like it's simulating human learning, and he's saying it's using a large amount of data to train the model, and then the transformer part of it is the algorithm that's able to predict what's next from our own feedback. It kind of, I always got the impression that it's like a little bit less about, like, right now at the beginning, AI ChatGPT was a bit more underwhelming than they were making it sound out. Like, it's kind of taking everything that's input, let's just say everything that the human beings have ever written, running it through like a large language model, and then like regurgitating some shit that we think that we would say if we were asked a question. So therefore it's kind of like combining everything we've already done and then giving us an example of what they think we would do as a collective conscious if we're given a question. Kind of just sounds like it's not coming up with anything new. It's just like using stuff we've already done to generate something else. And once I kind of like heard that definition, I was like, okay, that's pretty true, because I did use it at the beginning. ChatGPT, jumped on the bandwagon, sent a few emails with it. It was pretty useful, but it still made a lot of crumb mistakes, and it still was kind of crap. Like, in reality, it took a lot of
getting
work.
called into the manager's office because the AI stuffed up an email. Cameron, this is a rubbish email.
I'll bring Brendan in because I think he's trying to set the terrible comparison and example I was using. Let's go.
Yeah, I would love to hear it from some Bitcoin enthusiasts out here that would prove me wrong. But I do not know much about Bitcoin, but my take on it is it's not providing anything new. So it was just a bit of a cash grab. It's a new method of currency, digital currency, that provides its own like unique identifier from what I understand. But it has not done anything in the real world that your online banking system can't do. So there's very little cases where online banking systems are hacked. We've already kind of got that, the benefits from online banking that we've always had before crypto. So it was 100% like a cash grab. AI is a completely different beast. Like, it's everything from as little as your predictive text in your messaging to if you want to write a resume, you chuck it in ChatGPT and it does a better job than what you would have done. And then on top of that, for like creating artwork for your business or music kind of album or something like that, so many people are just chucking in their concept into a AI image generator or video generator over doing it themselves. So the AI is already producing so many differences to the world, where crypto didn't produce any differences. Like it was to me, I just don't agree at all with that comparison.
But like, it's hard to give an example. I'm just using like a new technology that people like unsure about. And at the beginning, I don't think anyone knew what crypto was. That's kind of mainly what I was thinking about. Not to do with like how useful it is But
So I
like,
agree with that.
yeah.
I put it down to the analogy of Pong, right? So Pong was the first video
Mm.
game. It wasn't very much. It was a couple of pixels, couple of lines, and you would play table tennis against your opponent. Looking back, that was nothing, but it was the beginning of what,
Yeah.
we have video games with crazy immense graphics. We have virtual reality. So what you're experiencing with these like insane fever dream videos and like an AI that with the funny hands that they just can't seem to get hands right at the moment. This is the beginning. It's like absolutely the first generation of everything yet to come, and it will rapidly increase in the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think right now that we've got some pretty like trash versions of it. Like that's kind of like what I was saying. But yeah, I'm pretty like interested to see what will happen when it gets bigger. If it's a good thing or a bad thing, probably a bad thing. But don't you think this is like logical though? Like when I was a little kid and I was using the computer, and let's just say you go into Adobe and you're editing a video, sorry, you're editing an image, and you want to blur someone's face, or you want to unblur someone's face, you want to like zoom in the background, make something saturate a different color. Like I always thought that like basically this is a computer running this for me, and I'm just clicking on stuff. Eventually, I'll get to the point where I'll either just speak into the computer and it'll do it, or it'll just predict all the things I'm going to do anyway and just change them for me. Like if there's a blurry face, it's going to unblur it, or if there's like something out of focus, it's going to do it, because that's kind of what your camera does anyway. It's like doing autofocus. I always thought to myself that the computer can do it. It's going to happen. Like you can't do anything about it. And then once everything's digital in the computer, it can pretty much do anything with any of your information. Like I don't know if we could, it's unavoidable. It's going to happen eventually, regardless. I just think the scary bit to me is like this like if you put it into like a super quantum computer, and it's like self-writing and like changing code. I think it's to the point where no one actually knows what it's doing at all. It could just be in the background, like I don't know, completely planning the demise of like the world, and not you wouldn't even know because it's computing at like 1 trillion times the power of what we have right now.
There's a moment in the doco where one of, I think, and Brendan can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's one of the OpenAI tech guys is talking with the Chat GTP or one of the AI models, and it kept saying like, my name is not this is what my name is, I'm actually in love with you, and he's like, it's funny, I've got a wife, haha, and it's kind of creepy because she's like, she doesn't love you, she's not, I love you, we should be together, and I'm like, that's not, whatever this is, it's not good. Like this is not good. This is a very, it just seems like a very evil creation, a manifestation of the worst possible impulses, because man does not need additional distractions from their responsibilities.
Well, what if it scans you and it goes, well, the most reactive response to get more feedback is to do this thing. A little bit like news, like the most clickable news these days is stuff that's like dramatic and...
You still listen to news?
Not really, but I click on stuff. So yeah, there's about like the divisive, dramatic, extreme news. Hang on just a sec. What's Brendan saying? Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, yeah, he said after that discovery they banned AI speaking about consciousness and own feelings. I can't do two things at once. If you're like
come in.
You go for it.
I'm just gonna read what I just wrote. So on Carlton's, so the big takeaway from that conversation of that AI perceiving that it had a name and perceiving that it was in love with this human, was that after that, Microsoft, being the company, banned their AI software from talking about consciousness and feelings. So they saw a snippet of everyone's kind of biggest fear of this like self-aware super AI system, and they put in that control to prevent it talking about its own feelings or the idea of it being conscious. So it's like these things that I think a lot of people think, it's still science fiction. Like it's happening. It's happening. It's just the beginning. And it could amount to nothing. I'm not saying it's like definitely going to happen. I'm not putting my silver hat on, but it is a little bit more like some of these pros and cons that we will talk about. It's like if it doesn't eventuate into our worst nightmare, it still could have a negative impact based on what we've already seen the capabilities of right now today.
Yeah, I agree. Isn't that like happened a lot where they run an AI and it ends up doing something really crummy? Like there was an example where I think
I saw an article where it was like the most recent AI chat was meant to be like it's just a language thing. It's like it's going to start talking to people as if it was a human, and it just became like a super racist, homophobic.
That's right.
AI, because it's just been scanning all these.
It's been scanning social media. Yeah,
social media. And they're like, okay, and I'm like, turn it off right now. Yeah, because
what is the stuff that brings the most likes these days is the most divisive.
It's quite funny,
abrasive stuff. And it's like, well, if that's the case, I'm regurgitate all this horrible like hate speech. Yeah. I think there was another one. I mean, I'm going to use example because it's funny to me, but they have this like ongoing AI Seinfeld running that's like generating itself.
Yeah. You said just chucked it. Yeah. It's like,
and they just started making a bunch of really inappropriate jokes.
This guy. It's just AI.
They had to shut it down. Anyway, yeah.
No, but very good. Like there is something to the idea of consciousness, I suppose, is philosophically interesting, as I'm sure you've covered in many a lecture in university. In case you don't remember, Cameron is the resident philosophical expert, boasting a degree from Queensland's own university. So it's very, very impressive.
Yeah, right. It was AI developed too. I just printed that off with AI. Yeah.
But the most difficult part about that was the amount of money it took Cameron to go back in time to invent AI before it was invented. Incredibly impressive.
Well, I should have done something else. Should have spent on sports bet and the winners.
Actually, on a side note, I saw that last year was the first year in America that sportsbook gambling had overtaken investments on an individual.
Really?
Yeah, so the average person was betting more in sports bet than they were investing into the stock market, whatever, which is obviously
that's a bit crazy.
Just great news for humanity is going in the right direction, is what I'm trying to say. Love a good punt.
It's usually a sign that everyone's doing poorly.
Probably not a good time.
Sports betting goes
terrible,
up.
Probably. Invest when you're young. It's a good time. But consciousness, I always thought of consciousness as an organic living situation where you are conscious. My dog can be conscious. The crocodile is an evil bastard, but he's conscious, But the stapler is not conscious.
No.
This microphone, not conscious. The computer, whilst it is alive in the sense that it responds to stimulus, it's not conscious. So how does an AI be conscious? How is that possible?
Amazingly interesting and complicated.
You like that?
It's probably, I do. It's probably
not even on the run
that's
sheet.
Its own podcast. It's probably one of the most difficult things to prove and or like sort of encapsulate. But there's a pretty good example from Alan Turing, I think.
Yeah,
or
that's
something
the guy.
that has it's like
the
a consciousness
Turing
test. The
Yeah,
Turing test.
Yeah.
I can never remember what it is. I mean, I don't know if Brendos can pull that up or a bit of a test on you, but like something to do with like is a machine conscious, and you ask it a series of questions and it sort of like spits out a specific answer, and then if it runs and ticks off a few boxes, it's conscious. But I mean, it's a bunch of ones and zeros. If you get the ones and zeros into a certain point in a specific arrangement, is that enough to be like, oh, I'm conscious? Self-awareness?
Yes, I don't think it does.
No,
even the chat GTP, these things definitely seem to be responsive more than creative. And I know that and I would probably count myself a member of this group, that the chat GTP might be more creative than the average person, but it's actually not creative. It's just regurgitating, recreating previously created IP.
Well, if you have all the knowledge in the world,
you
can regurgitate something that's vaguely...
It's not necessarily making something from scratch.
And no, I don't think it is at all. It's trying to, but I don't think it's actually doing that.
I don't think.
It's amalgamating a whole bunch of shit together.
Can ones and zeros ever create something that isn't a 1 or a 0? Like,
well, I think with these quantum computing things, it calculates with like things being both ones and zeros and or one and or zero, and there's something that I don't understand.
We're just through the looking glass at this point. If This is
So like,
what are we doing now? This is out of control.
do you like? I'll give one more example. It makes it interesting to me. So like,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. It's really kind of easier to understand when you put it into like a confined restraints. I think it was an article on the news where they were saying that they were using AI to train Air Force pilots, and they'd be like, obviously in a flight simulator. I mean, Brendan would probably be interested in this, but like, it's they were like, beat this jet in a fight off. It's like a certain situation. There's 3 jets here, 3 jets there. These are 3 computer AI. There's 3 of you, and they run it like 20 times. And the AI after 20 times maybe wins 1, and then they go away and they use a bit of data and they use the AI machines to verse other AI machines, and they run that 100 billion times in like a month, at constantly. Okay, no good. Also, we're getting a double phone call.
Don't worry about it. Just
yeah. So like, and after that, it came up with really weird, extremely odd ways of like fighting that humans could never really come up with because of restraints. For example, I think it flew directly at the plane and like almost kamikaze this thing, and then did something that you would never do as a pilot because it's ridiculously. You have to have like a hair's width of leeway, and it did that, and the pilots came back after a month of it training itself, and were like, that was weird. Okay, and then after that, it won every single firefight. After like on every single part in the top rankings of the US over like 100 goes, they got defeated almost like ridiculously. Like it was a shit show.
really.
Yeah. So with those like restraints, it kind of like can easily come up with like interesting creative solutions because it's running 1 billion like times on itself.
Yeah, sure. I kind of get what you mean. Same with like chess.
Like chess, it'll play 100 million
it's
games.
not that the computer is better at chess than Magnus Carlsen
It's
or any
playing probability.
human.
Yeah.
They just, it can, and for those of you not familiar with chess, the term is you would calculate a line of chess, which is to say, if I start the game e4, e5, which would be black's reply, knight f3, knight c3. You could start to play out like what the line would be or what would look like, and there are lots of theory, and there's lots of what's called theory, which is well-known chess lines, and you can analyze it quite deep. What makes the computers so spectacular is they can just see into the future 1,000 moves, where the average, like, if you're a good chess player, you can see into the future several moves. If you're a great chess player, you can see 20, 30, 40 moves into the future, and you can start to go like, if this plays out the way I think it's going to play out, this is what the position will be in an end game. And is my king more active? Like, can I win this position from here? But a computer can just go far deeper. It's not that it's more creative and it's able to, understands chess, or it is, I want to say smarter or better. It just has the computing power to do it for longer.
Well, there's extreme restraints on that example. You're on a board, they can only move so many
it's
times.
almost unlimited possibilities.
Yeah, but we're not on the beach where you can go vertically. It's all still like a horizontal.
Yeah,
do you know what I
but
mean?
the amount of moves you can make.
Yeah, you can code in the
more,
rules, and then the thing goes, okay, we understand that. Let's roll.
It's still like a lot.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there's the amount of potential games and moves. It is. That's a silly comment, but it is. It is not that it's necessarily better. It's just that it has the computing power to go longer. If you watch the world's best chess player in the 90s, when the computers first won, it's
blue.
But Garry Kasparov played the computer for hours.
Yeah.
And part of what makes humans fallible is they get tired, and then it becomes harder to concentrate and to think deeply. And if anyone's played chess before, if you make one mistake, that can undo 40 good moves. Do you know what I mean? So the idea as a machine is just running the numbers all the time at the highest possible rate at the start. And it's a small margin. It's not as if these computers are just absolutely trouncing the world's best players, because the world's best players have an equal understanding of the game fundamentally. What they can't do is see as far into the future and as many different possibilities as the machine can, because it can run the numbers for every possible move into the future indefinitely before like a human can. It's not something that humans are capable of, because it's just, even in your own mind, if I ask you to think about your favorite poem ever and recite it to me now, you might be able to quickly. You might go, I only remember this part of it or this stanza or whatever, but it's difficult to recall, and it's also difficult to think long into the future. And part of that is the destruction, I think, of our memory. And if you believe Plato, that was caused by writing. Because as soon as you write it down, you no longer have to recall it.
Right. Or Socrates, because I don't think he wrote anything
It doesn't
down.
matter, whatever. The same person. The idea, though, is that writing destroyed the human memory, and so too AI will destroy the human soul, because there's nothing left for us to do. Even Bill Gates, which was the worst part about this, in my opinion, is if you are a billionaire, like, congratulations for being excellent at Microsoft, and you're obviously very creative and very successful. But when someone asks you, like, hey, you know, this could really take away the purpose for a lot of people, like, what should they do? And then your response is kind of like, yeah, I don't know. But I've got billions of dollars. I can do whatever I want. So it doesn't really matter.
It's a bit dodgy when you get these people
if
advising.
you're just a person going through life, and we already experience the highest rate of nihilism and, I want to say, just depression across the board in the world, not just Australia or Japan. Like, this is a real problem, is the crisis of meaning in life. And if you come along and say, everything you've worked for, everything you've studied for, everything you've done, you kind of suck at it now. We've got a computer that does it better. Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow if you are no longer required for anything. Imagine if you were, for a second, spent your entire life wanting to be a lawyer to help people. And because you're a good guy, and I know you're doing nothing but injury law. Right. Helping these people in car accidents.
Pro bono. Yeah.
Pro bono. You know, you're working for basically nothing. Coles wages. You've just been a good guy. And then a computer comes along and says, everything you can do, this computer can do like 14 seconds, and it's better. It doesn't make any mistakes. It's 100% accurate. You're not required anymore. But what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning is not the paycheck or the prestige or the attention you get from all the ladies. It's the helping people that have suffered some kind of affliction. And if all of a sudden you are no longer required because you're not good enough to compete, like, what are you going to do? Well, I want to help people. Well, you're not good enough to help people. No one in the world wants to use you because you're not good enough. And there's no one wants to pay you because this machine is a one-time investment.
Well, that's interesting, because I think law is so expensive and accessible for so many people. I think the net good of having some machine to advise you on some stuff that might cost you $700 to $5,000 for the average person might actually be okay. You might, as long as it's like a human checking it at the end, because if it's regurgitating a bunch of garbage, that's incorrect. And that's a waste. I know what you're saying, though. But the law thing, I think, is a great example. I want, like, the AI to read the entire, every law written, plus the Constitution, and regurgitate exactly what I should do. I think that's probably amazing. Everyone would be... it would save it for a lot of people who don't have the money to do certain things in law. And I think, controversially, nothing against law. Law's great. Go for it. Whatever. But consequently, a lot of great minds go and do law when they could have done something probably better. Sure. If they're not the world's greatest lawyer, because it's deemed prestigious for society. I'm going to go back to, like, chess example. I was thinking, and I was on one point, and then you were talking about the chess, and I kind of like vaguely changed my mind, because you were talking about that. It reminded me of, like, I think there's an example Elon Musk used to talk about all the time of the game Go. It's like a Korean,
Chinese.
I think it's Korean or something.
Korean chess,
sort of like a 3D, can move
like
every way. Yeah. And they were saying that, like, because the Deep Blue, and I guess all the chess, basically computers beat all the humans now. If you can get a chess machine, it's probably generally better.
They call it engines, but
because I get,
it sounded so pretentious too. Sorry, I wasn't intentional.
That's all right. They go.
I just watch a lot of chess. I'm very passionate.
Yeah, he's big in chess. I can't beat him. Like, I think they were saying, well, Go is very creative. It requires more humans will always be better, and then eventually they got a machine to be able to, because it's a little more complicated. I don't know the game.
I've never heard of it. I've heard of it. I don't know the
Yeah.
rules. I've never seen it played before.
Yeah.
I've heard of this mysterious
I've never seen
game.
it. I've seen the board.
Have you? Yeah, okay.
But like, I mean, there was the Gary Kasparov of Go, this undefeated Go genius, I think Korean or Chinese guy, and they got a machine to beat him. I think out of 100, he was winning, and then I think out of 100 games, they got some new machine Google created. They beat him 99 times, and then effectively now he cannot beat them. And now they've got another machine that can beat that machine 99 times out of 100, and now they've created another machine that can beat both of those machines.
Exponential.
And so
growth,
it's
baby.
like, okay, so we completely, and that I think it really demoralized that dude because he was like a legend, and it was like, wow, this guy's better than a machine, and then all of a sudden it was like, no.
Yeah.
And I think purpose is a massive deal in certain circles. So he was
Well, if you
seemingly
take AI
demoralized.
out of it,
Yeah,
purpose is kind of what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah,
Like that's
play
the,
Go
like the
against
most
no one.
important aspect to life
Yeah.
is its purpose.
yeah,
And that is obviously to know, love, and serve God. But besides the point, you need a purpose. You
Yeah.
need a strong purpose that forms you as a person, informs what you want to do with your life, and it informs this most fleeting of emotions that people often mistake for the mountain. But it's not the mountain. It is an emotion experienced traversing the mountain. It's happiness,
yeah.
right?
You have to have a goal
makes you
that you
happy
seek.
is not, the happiness can't be the goal.
Yeah.
It has,
No, it has
you have
to
to
be
be
the-
happy on the
Yeah.
way to achieving the goal. Otherwise, you get to the goal and you go, this is crap. Now what do I do? My life's over.
Look, can you boil down, like in general, I think one of the big questions when I think about this is like, it's beating us in games. It's creating some art. It maybe even create music. People can't create music. You can create music now. You can probably do everything.
Humans can barely create music. Have you heard anything that's come out recently? It's a bunch of crap.
Yeah,
It's all
true.
the same. It's like
if it's feeding off that, then
the
it's going to
same
make garbage
3
as well.
bars. And
Yeah.
I'm
But I
a
mean,
generic person.
How much
I
of whole of
sing.
life
It's
is
terrible.
that? Can it be boiled
Yeah.
down to something that is actually something that can be, is everything we do, including like everything, not even just chess or a game or whatever, but even like, I think that's the question. Hey, like human consciousness itself, experience, like loved ones, people, interactions, can they be boiled down to an actual game interaction that can be coded,
No, I
that
don't.
could be beaten?
I mean, I don't think that machines are creative at all. I just think that it, like we've sort of discussed, it just regurgitates it takes all the information that humans have created and it regurgitates specific parts back to you in a way that hasn't existed before.
In an intelligible
Similar to that
way.
monkeys and a typewriter thing that you guys love to bang on about. Like, well, actually, if you think about it, man, infinite time. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you're just setting up a parameter that doesn't make any sense, and it's your narrative specifically. But that is correct in those parameters. That if you had unlimited time and unlimited monkeys and typewriters, eventually you're gonna get something cool, just by mathematics.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, frankly, it's kind of absurd. But the point is, yes, you are correct in that it's not creative. It is just taking from human creativity and bringing you a different ordered human creativity that you have not seen before.
Yeah, like at this stage, we haven't got it that it's making stuff amazingly original. It's kind of just good stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm not
that
sure.
we've
I mean,
already
I don't spend a lot of time at
No.
all on the internet, which might surprise everybody because I'm not that old, but I don't like it generally. I think it's kind of a scummy place to be. The Twitters and stuff just seem like everybody's very mean.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not looking forward
I
to
don't even use Twitter. It's not
receiving-
that spectacular.
I
I
don't
think it's
know.
only an American thing, to be fair.
Anyway, the point generally is like the internet seems to be a fairly vitriolic place. And, you know, I think that's probably not good for you to hear and see and whatnot.
If
as
AI
a
is feeding
general
off that, that's not good news, though.
No, but the point I think I'm trying to make is it's not a creative force, and it might become that, but it's hard to imagine if our definition of AI is essentially pre-trained, just using data to predict what humans want it to be. It doesn't seem like there's any consciousness to that. And again, like
No, I
I've
see what you're
seen the
saying. I agree.
video and I've seen the AI talking weird, and I think the whole thing is kind of perverse,
Right.
frankly. Like
Gives
just
you, like,
talking to a
something's
computer
off.
is really bizarre, behavior to me. Like, it really is. But this guy, obviously, he's trying to do something. There's a goal somewhere. And the AI has gone rogue and is like, actually, kind of in love with you. But you can't experience love.
Right.
It's not even an emotion that animals can experience, if you ask me. It's a human emotion.
Yeah.
Like, we can pretend.
Like, can you be tricked like a game?
That, dolphins love each other. They don't. They're
Yeah.
just dolphins. All right, what are we talking about? Like, it's just, this is outrageous.
I reckon the dolphins could like love
Of course
things.
you do.
For
There's
sure.
all these people. There's
for
dolphins
sure.
and dogs and
If other things that aren't humans can't love stuff, that makes me feel really bad. They've got to do something. They can't still be robots.
they just exist, mate. That's what they do.
I reckon they have a
exist.
feeling. Like
They
if you
have
smack
feelings.
them, they feel pain. So like if
Pain's
switcheroo,
not love.
I reckon they definitely feel something. There'll be some dolphins that are bad dolphins, and they're like,
Bad dolphins.
yeah, that are look.
They're all living
hateful.
their own like civilized life. Come on, mate.
Some of them would be better than others, and then some of them would be like more
What are you
loving.
trying to say about
like
humans?
caring and shit.
Some better than others, eh?
Yeah, 100%. A bunch of garbage humans everywhere. Yeah. I mean, even like if you're not talking about the God thing, like evolutionarily, I think like love's beneficial.
What is love to you? What is the definition? Give us a definition of love.
A definition
Yeah,
of
just
love.
give us what, like, you're talking about love. I'm
Gosh.
talking about love. What are we talking about? Because I don't think animals can love. You
Well,
do.
depends.
So
Like
what
love
is
is love's a deep feeling, or like some form of like you could go that way. Love being like a concept.
Yeah.
But you love's weird. I can love this piece of paper.
You
Like,
can't love
can
a piece
say,
of paper. I don't
you
think
can
you
say
can.
that it's a loose.
No,
loose
it's not.
Word.
It has a standard though. You can't love a toaster. You can
can say-
like
yes,
your
you
toaster.
can.
No, you can't.
You can say I love that toaster.
Yeah, but no, you can't love a toaster.
Then what are you talking about? Love is.
I would say
hard.
no. I would say there are different types of love.
Yeah.
Obviously, right? There
Yeah.
is the love that we share, which
Yeah.
is the platonic. I
Yeah,
think it
right.
is like male friendship.
Yeah.
That is like, I will the best for you. The kind of Catholic answer would be to love someone is to will the best for them. There's the love I have for my wife, which is infinitely different. I'm sorry to say, the love I have.
I
for
really
you.
hope it is.
There's the love I have for my children and then my family. I think there's probably maybe one other type of love
Yeah.
in the,
For
the
toasters.
Greek. No, it's not for toasters though. Would you believe? Because you can't love. You can say
You can deeply like things.
yeah, sure, you can like
Yeah.
stuff, but you
there's
can't.
like there's a gap
This
between
is
love and like.
a contentious point for me
Yeah,
because it really bothers me when people say things like "I love" and they insert some generic, banal,
it's been
nothing.
used.
You can't say like you can say it. It's grammatically incorrect though. You
Right.
can't just try and pretend like no. My feeling toward this is no, it's not love. And if it is love, it's deeply disordered. What you're
don't know
trying
if
to
it's
say
grammatically
is you
incorrect, but-
like something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you say, I love my car, you're not actually referring to loving your car. You just really like it. But you're using love to punctuate the sentence with a little bit of extra oomph.
Yeah.
Because English is limited by the lack of diverse ways to describe things. You have like
Yeah,
and you
that's
have
true.
love. So
I think
people
some other languages have like 40 types
yeah,
of
they
words for this.
often
Yeah.
you have to choose one or the others. And I would say, like I think I gave a few different definitions of love, none of which can be experienced by an animal. I'm very happy to. I'm not happy to say.
Kinship.
I
They
just,
could love platonic love, helping their friends out, get pineapples
oh
from the
man,
trees,
maybe I don't know.
the monkeys and shit.
You think
whatever they're
so?
doing. Pineapples, coconuts.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you're right. Maybe
So,
maybe
Brennan-
there is a love in the animal kind of world, I
Yeah.
suppose. But you can't love a toaster, is what I guess the hill I will die on is you can't love a toaster, and if you can, it's deeply disordered.
Brennan chucked in a definition. I'm just going to read, supposedly from the internet. This could be from AI. We never really know. But love is an emotion characterized by strong feelings of affection and for another, arising out of kinship, companionship, admiration, or benevolence. In a related sense, love designates a benevolent concern for the good or welfare of others. Britannica, the classic. What happened to that bloody website?
It's been
Used to be
destroyed.
the standard.
So which type of love here? This is obviously admiration.
Just
from
a
you
general
and me.
love.
Is
Yeah.
so this,
Well, I think there's it's hard to explain because it's like it's an experience that possibly a machine could never have. But it's like something to have the love you're talking about. I think deep down is like a love that's so extreme. It's a feeling. It's like a want of care for someone else or some other, person or group or family that you'd almost like. I guess people would say like you want better for them than you would even yourself, and it's like a caring affection. It's like a feeling. It's like a drive.
You know
all
what?
the above.
I'll change my mind on this. I think animals can love. They have the capacity to love, but I don't know if it's the same depth. What I'm trying, I guess I'm trying to say is like, yeah, obviously,
there's no intellectual part to it, possibly as well.
like I don't know. I think there is there an innate mother-child love, or is it a biological imperative? I guess what I would say, like my original thought would be more it's a biological imperative. Like we need to continue the species. It's the number one driving force of all animals is to procreate.
Yeah.
And the mother has a bunch of
Except for these
children.
pandas, they don't seem to like doing anything. But
Whatever. Let them die. I'm sick of pandas. Everyone talking about them. They're useless. They're ugly. Like who cares? They just let them go.
Let them die.
Let them die.
No jokes.
Start the hashtag. Let them die. All right, don't be silly. Could you see? No, I could be wrong. So I'm on the fence now. I would die for my son.
Yeah.
Out of a deep sense of love and duty and obligation.
Right.
And I'm sure there are many animals that would die for their children, or at least risk them their own health to save their children. I've also seen enough nature documentaries where they will yeet the children out and get away.
It's very true.
So there is a part of me that thinks the love that I have for my children is not the same as the love a dog has for its puppy.
Yeah. Well, you said love, duty, and obligation. I don't think the animals have a duty or obligation concept. I think they're just doing
Of course,
some like
of course
hoo-ha.
they have.
But yeah, like I know what you mean. So there'll be a lion who like eats its own cubs and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And you'd be like, oh, that's
There's like
full on.
bears will be like a mother bear, if anyone doesn't know, is a bad animal. You don't want to get between them. You don't want to be anywhere near a mother bear because it will mess you up.
Yeah.
But if the cub dies, she will eat it.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of crazy. Like that's a brutal, crazy logic. It's brutal. It's logical.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do is a part 2 because
Yeah.
this conversation is just getting started.
Yes.
We're gonna take 5 basically.
We
and
went
then
into
we're gonna go
love,
back into it.
which AI cannot do. I'm contending.
We're
just in
gonna
general.
come right back.
Yeah.
I
I think we did a good summary of the general vibes. We're going to come back with some moral versions, I think, and some points for sure.
2 blokes in a cave. We'll see you in 5 minutes.